And we're live. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Wow, I miss all that sound, that energy in the morning when I had my own classroom. Here. And we are here as part of a series of speakers between students and the code community in Vermont, celebrating Hour of Code. And we're here this morning with 2 classrooms and 2 members of the code community. Let's start by having everybody introduce themselves. Start with the students from Bradford.
Hi, I'm Karen Fogarty. I'm a technology integrationist here at Bradford Elementary School. We are a K-6 school, and this is our 5th grade. Hello.
Hi. That's a lot of 5th grade students. Is it your whole 5th grade?
It is, yes.
How many students?
35.
28.
Either 28 or 35.
28.
It's actually one of our smaller classes of about 28.
Great. And here we have Miss Hook from Tunbridge Elementary. I'll let you guys say hi.
Tunbridge.
Hi.
How's it there?
And Tesley Hook, can you tell us a little bit about how many students you have there?
So we only have 9 students in this 1st and 2nd grade combined, and then there's another 1st and 2nd grade combined with 13 students.
And what is the most famous thing about your town?
Yeah, the fair.
So some of you, I've actually never been to the Tunbridge Fair, but I've heard a lot about it.
Well, the kids get to show, Lego creations and different things that they make at it. So it's pretty cool.
Excellent. I can't wait to hear about it. We also have here Smith. Eric, can you say hi and tell us a little bit about who you are?
Sure. I'm Eric, and I have a new company called Paired IQ, and we are making programs to help students learn English. And I have been programming since the dinosaurs walked the earth.
And that's a long time.
Yes, it is a very long time. And well, more seriously, I've actually been programming before there were personal computers.
Thanks, Eric. And we have Julie. Julie, can you say hi and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. And I have been to the Tunbridge World Fair. It was wonderful. I live in Huntington. I've lived in Vermont. I moved to Vermont before all of you were born, all you kids at least. And I've also been programming since the dinosaurs for about 30 years. So before the internet, before cell phones, and we had to build our own computers. The personal computers, they came in kits and we had to build them. I work all alone for myself, so I don't have a job with a company. And what I do now mostly is help other programmers learn how to code.
Thank you, Julie. Calling in from this morning.
I'm in Charlotte, Vermont.
It's all nice little towns.
Yep.
Sorry about that. Let's start with the 5th graders. And I would love to hear a little bit more about how you guys are learning to code.
In 5th grade, 3rd and up have been using the Hour of Code, the program.
Can you hear her?
Yes, I did. So you've done an Hour of Code. There's a lot of programs and a lot of opportunities through Hour of Code. Which ones are your favorites?
We use the Hour of Code on code.org, and the kindergarten and the 1st grade have been using Codable.
You've been using what? The last one?
The kindergarten and 1st grade have been using the program Codable.
Great. Codable is an iPad app, right?
It is.
Yeah.
Boy, I
like all-
thought they said COBOL. That's a dinosaur.
COBOL is a language that some of us who've been coding for a long time or were learning or were using a long time ago. I'm COBOL, Miss Lerman?
Pardon me?
Do they still use COBOL?
I have never used it. I'm old, but not quite that old.
Yes, actually, you can get paid a lot of money for programming in COBOL.
But Codable is a fun game on your iPad, and you can level up and learn a lot of coding algorithms. Tell us more, Edith, in your class, Miss Fogarty. What types of things do you do when you're not during Hour of Code week?
Or do you want to address that? What kinds of things do we do during technology?
Oh,
Want to give them some facts about that? Well, for technology, I think.
Track my do track my progress.
Well, that's an assessment.
Alright, we learned about what's safe on the internet and what sites we're not supposed to go on and why and stuff.
It's good to be safe.
And what copywriting is and all the stuff that you shouldn't be doing to other people's work.
How often do you have technology?
Once a week. We have technology once a week.
Excellent. And I know that you have a very smart technology teacher, educator, certified trainer, so you must be very proud of her.
Yeah.
It's because of my professors. So all students K to 6 here at Bradford have a technology course that that meets 30 minutes every week. And so we have an integration model here. So I work closely with classroom teachers to develop lessons that will work in their classroom. We are a Google Apps school, so kids are really working to learn all of the capabilities of Google Apps. These guys have started making digital portfolios. And we are, Libby wanted to share what other facts?
3rd through 6th, every individual student has their own Chromebook that they're gonna have from 3 to 6th grade, and then you're gonna leave it here, and then somebody else is gonna get it.
We're working on that model.
Yeah.
We went one-to-one Chromebook 3rd through 6th about 2 years ago. So
Excellent. And there's a lot of nice coding applications now that do work on Chromebooks.
yes.
I don't think they heard me. Do you guys use Scratch?
We haven't.
did once at home.
Kids have dabbled in it. We haven't taught it officially yet, but kids do have a lot of choice, and we've done coding enough so that these guys have done coding for 3 years now. And so they're ready to move on, I think, a lot of them, and we're going to work on that this year. We do also have one other thing we've added to our technology department, or maybe 2, depending on how you want to look at it. What did we get last year?
Those robots. Students can use Dash and Dot. They're robots from the Wonder thing. And you code to make them do stuff.
I love. Oh, second.
They're really cool.
Very cool. Speaking of robots, let's go check out the kids and what's happening at Tunbridge. Hi, Tunbridge.
This is a different picture.
They are.
Can you hear us, Ms. Hook?
Yep.
Would your kids like to share, or you and your students like to share what you do to learn to code?
Do any of you guys want to talk about what you do? Oliver? Okay, come on over. So you can pick anything that you want to tell them about. You can tell about Scratch or Dash.
I will.
All right, Leah.
Um,
But tell her about what Dash does. What is it?
Dash is
If you sit down, then they can see you a little bit. Yeah. There you go.
Dash pushes blocks.
And what else can you do with Dash? What are you making so he moves?
Coding.
And what else can Dash do?
To make a trumpet sound.
Yeah.
Do you help him make that trumpet sound?
Yeah.
Okay, does anyone else want to? All right, Oliver's going to come over and try again. So come right over here so they can see you, right? So if you can see yourself on the screen, then they can see you. There you go.
We learned how to do squishy circuits and make lights light up with Play-Doh.
Very. Your teacher is also working really hard to study how to use technology and bring new technologies to your school. I think she is a student at Marlborough College, right, Miss Hook?
That's right. Eva, did you want to say something too?
We learned how to do scrap and we can make them do stuff.
So you use Scratch Junior? And do you use that on your iPad or your computer? You're right. iPad. It works really good on the iPad. So how would you guys like to hear from two coders in the community, and they can tell you how they learned to code?
You guys want to hear that?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
Let's check it out. Mr. Smith, because he has, I think, a young boy who is about your age, and he also teaches him to code.
That's true. I actually have two kids. One is 10 and my daughter is 10, Lena, and I have a son, Oliver, who is 8. And when Oliver just turned 7 last year, he gave a little presentation at the event that Julie runs called Vermont Code Camp. And certainly, before I forget, I would encourage everybody to try to go to Code Camp. A lot of it may be a bit much for kids, but I think Julie and myself and others encourage everyone to come see what it's like. And we try to get things there that, kids might like. There's a lot of robot demonstrations and that kind of stuff. And I taught my son to program using a language called Pirate, which is very good for starting to learn programming. And then he gave a talk there at Vermont Code Camp on his experience in learning. And I believe he was making a chicken fly on the screen. And that was that's what his program did.
That's awesome, Mr. Hall. When did you learn to code? And how did you learn to code?
Was that to Julie?
Or was to you?
Oh, to me. So I was in high school when I learned, and Julie had mentioned that computers used to come in kits. And in fact, my dad had brought home from his work one of those kits, and it was a very small, what we called microcomputers. And I learned to program first, it was just doing arithmetic to make the computer basically a calculator. And then I learned to program in, I didn't make anything up. I mostly just copied the code to play a game called Hunt the Wumpus. And it was like a little text adventure game, but the keys that you hit were not like a keyboard that we have now. they were the numbers 0 through 9, and then you had a few letters on there, A, B, C, D, E, and F, what we call a hex keypad. And that's how you programmed it, but that's also how you actually had to play games like Hunt the Wumpus. But you could do a bunch of other games as well. And that was really my beginning.
Thank you. Let's find out how Julie learned to code.
Well, Eric actually or Mr. Smith just made me remember what I did before my first computer back in high school in the 1970s, back in the last century. We used these really fancy calculators to do some kind of programming. I've completely forgotten about that. But my really first coding experience was in college on these kit computers that our math teachers had built. And I wrote a poker game, a card game on it. And that was my first formal training. And then after that, for I would say about 10 years after that, I taught myself everything because we didn't have a lot of the resources and internet and code.org and our code. We didn't have all that. So the way I had to learn was a lot of experimenting, which is fun. Like, try stuff out. Does it work? No, it doesn't work this time. Okay, maybe I'll change this. Maybe I'll change that. Just keep doing it and learning and understanding the cause and effect of things until it works. I did that, and I read books, and I read magazines, and I went to meetings. Again, we couldn't do like Google Hangouts. Today, I still keep learning, even though now I also spend a lot of time teaching people. What I try to do is I learn about new things it's hard to learn when it's new, because I like to do it because I like to experiment. So I spend time experimenting and learning how things work, and then I teach other people how to use them.
That's awesome, Julie. It's important to keep trying even when things are hard. That the folks at Bradford and at Tunbridge, have you ever had to really, really hard and then you feel like you were stuck?
Did you ever code anything that was hard, guys?
Yeah.
So I have a question. When it's really hard, but then you keep at it and then you finally get it, how does that feel?
Good.
I think my job is to make the computer do what I want it to do, no matter what.
You're the boss, right? I have a question related to that. What do you guys do when it gets hard, when you feel like you're stuck? You give up, or how do you handle that?
Are you asking the old people or the young people?
The young people.
So when it's hard, guys, do you give up or do you keep trying?
Keep trying.
How do you get unstuck?
How do we get unstuck when we're coding?
You get unstuck.
We get a friend as a,
Or to get help from a teacher. And you try again. Yeah, try again.
So you're try again, get help from a teacher, ask a friend.
No, I asked a friend and he brings a friend.
Let's find out how our coders get unstuck. Do you use those same techniques, Eric?
Well, I don't ask the teacher, no. No, generally what I do is I keep working on it until I'm sick of it. And then I put it down, and when I get back to it the next day, after a good night's sleep, suddenly I see things differently. And that combination of struggling with it and banging my head on the wall, and then coming to it with, new eyes, I usually see something that I wasn't able to see the first time. And I go through this basically every day, right? So my work is just a sequence of that struggle and then looking at it with fresh eyes after I've had some sleep.
And how about you,
That
Julie?
sounds very familiar, Eric. And I've talked to lots of programmers, and it's almost a joke among programmers that this is how we work. It's like so much of what we do is struggle, struggle, struggle. And then, and then there's a period where well, you guys ask a teacher or we ask a friend. Sometimes I'll go on Twitter and ask a friend. But usually I do wait until I'm sick of it or I feel like I've wasted too much time. But so Eric talks about, sometimes he'll just go to sleep and in the morning, like all of a sudden he has a new idea. A lot of times that happens for me when I'm walking my dog. So sometimes, and part of it is sometimes when you're stuck, your brain gets locked up, right? Just locked and you can't think of new things. So if you go and just do something else and it lets your brain relax, then new ideas start flowing through. But also I think some of my neighbors might think I'm a little strange because when I'm doing this on a dog walk, I'm often talking out loud to myself, working through the problem. So they see me walking the dog and I'm just talking the whole time.
Well, it sounds like you guys use some really good techniques as you're learning getting unstuck or coding. And it also sounds like sometimes our schools are not a place where kids can talk out loud to themselves, or kids can just go take a walk and walk their dog, or just walk outside, or the problem later. You guys both work from home?
Yes, I do.
Yes, I work at home as well.
Yeah.
So it's hard to ask a friend.
Well, that's actually not true because thank you to the internet and different social media like Twitter. I'm connected to many, many programmers on Twitter, including Eric, all over the world. And I know that most of the time, if I'm having a problem, somebody already had that problem, and I can ask around or do some research. So there are quiet ways to do that, but collaboration, working with other people, because everybody's minds work differently. Everybody has different ideas, and sometimes somebody will say something that will make you think in a different way to get you unstuck, or maybe they just know how to get you unstuck. And that's really important in our world of working, of collaborating with people and sharing ideas, because that makes the whole process go more quickly and expand better.
I wanted to follow up on something Julie said, that when I get stuck, although I don't usually talk to myself, I also have a dog. And if I'm walking the dog by myself, I will talk to myself just like Julie does. But usually what I do is talk to myself on a sheet of paper. So this is a problem. It's actually a problem for how to score tennis, because I'm writing a course for Champlain College. And in it, I have a programming problem. And it's tennis, the game of tennis scoring is a little bit odd. And to program that into a computer in the way that I needed to was kind of difficult. And so I sort of talk to myself on paper. So I will actually write out when I get stuck or I have a problem. But it's the same idea. It's about communicating, about talking through the problem to help solve it.
That's a good point. There's a lot of ways to engage our brain into doing problem solving. And I think some of the students from Bradford in the 5th grade, do you guys ever work with, let me see if I can unmute them. There we go. Do you guys ever use a scratch piece of paper or some other way to talk to yourself?
No.
Yeah,
We're doing it right
yeah.
now. We're taking notes.
I do that about once every
Never
Do you
have.
guys have a paper in front of you right now?
Yes.
Are you writing your ideas down?
No.
Yes.
That's the same thing.
They do have the opportunity to go for walks here though when they get frustrated.
That's good. And one of the things that I know is that I sometimes draw, and there's a coding technique to draw out what you want your computer to do. I wonder if our guest arts or any other kinds of drawings to help them.
Sometimes I do that. I have a whiteboard in my office. A friend once came to visit and he saw that I have a whiteboard, even though I work alone, and he thought that was really strange. But again, you know, to talk to myself. So yeah, sometimes how working out how things connect to each other. I'm going from, if I've got a number of problems, I try to separate them into individual problems and then understand how one problem connects to another problem.
Thanks, Julie. We're almost out of time, and I wonder if our students have any questions for our guests.
We have a couple of questions here, Lucy.
Let's
So
hear.
a question if you've got one and ask after. Something about their job, like do they design games or right now it's on Bradford.
Good. Nice and loud, Morgan.
Go sit down.
What is Code Camp?
Ah, Code Camp.
And out of your mouth.
It's like a fun, it is a totally fun day where a lot of coders come together, and we have different rooms. So it's like school for a day, but instead of being school, the people who are teaching are other coders. So it's as though you had in your own classroom, maybe one of you learned something cool that you wanted to share with other people. You could do that at Code Camp. And so that's what we do for the whole day. And we even have pizza for lunch.
Any other Miss Cook, does your question have any questions?
Oh, my eye.
Did you hear that question? How did you code on a calculator was the question.
It was so long ago, I don't even remember. I'm really sorry. What I can tell you, it was a scientific calculator. So it wasn't just a calculator to add, 1, 2, and 3. It had all kinds of scientific functions and formulas and things. And I believe that the teacher gave us problems to solve, and we would use those calculators to answer the problem. Much in the same way that the scientists at NASA figure out different, mathematical problems.
Did it fit in your pocket?
No, it was probably this big. Do you remember the old HP calculators?
I see that Tunbridge looks like they might be ready for a question.
So one of my students, Leah, has a question for Julie.
Yes. Hi, Leah.
Here.
Who do you work for?
Me. I work for myself. I work at home. And so working for me, that may not make sense. I have lots of different people that I work for at different times. So they will call me up and say, can you help us with a problem? And so they'll hire me for a week to help them with a problem. But I am my own boss.
And what it sounds like is that Eric and Julie, that you're both able to work in Vermont and you don't have to move to a big city, a huge company. in order to do your job. Does coding help with that?
Well, the first thing is that the internet helps with that. It's really important. But everything that Eric, I'll let you speak for yourself, but most of the work that I do is about coding. So it helps me do everything, whether I'm solving my own problem or teaching other people how to use code to solve their problems.
Yeah, nowadays, when you program, you really don't have to be in the same place as other people who are working on the same project, because you can do a video chat like we are now, and then you can send your code to other people when you need to, and they can send it to you. So you can be all over the place. So you can work just as easily from here as New York City.
Or Australia.
So that sounds like a good place to end, in the fact that I know that both and Tunbridge have dash and dot. And I think that you can send code to each other. Help you figure that out if you want. But wouldn't it be cool if Tunbridge and Bradford wrote a piece of code for dash or dot and sent it to each other? Would you guys like to do that?
You say yes.
Cool idea.
You said that.
And maybe you can put surprise code in there.
So maybe Miss Fogarty and Miss Hook and I can work on that. Thanks, everybody. We're out of time, but thank you very much for taking a half hour out of your day and sharing what you're learning and sharing what you're doing for career. Part of is to help inspire both of you, but also other people who might be watching. The Agency of Education and VitaLearn. I wish you a great hour of Code Week, and thanks so much. Bye, everybody.
Bye.